really an honor to be here. Thus, Data Topics.
Welcome to the
Datatopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to Datatopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week. From O3 to music, anything goes. I had to think about that one. And Happy New Year, everyone. I think this is the first pod of 2025.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Today is the January 6th of 2024. My name is Murillo. I'll be hosting you today together with Bart.
Hi.
Hey, and Alex behind the scenes. Hi, Alex. She's waving. Trust me on this one. Happy New Year, everyone. How was your holidays?
Very good. Very good. A bit of time off. Enjoyed it with the family. Went skiing for a week in Switzerland.
Nice.
Can't complain.
Nice.
Can't complain.
Very cool. And it's been actually a while since we met, I feel.
It's been 3 weeks-ish.
Maybe even more, I think.
Hola.
But wow, yeah. So
your hair grew.
Yeah, my beard grew as well. I try to take care of it, but you know.
Are you consciously growing out your beard?
No, I'm just lazily growing my beard.
Okay.
Yeah. So for people that are just listening, we are gonna also publish the video so you can check it out for yourself. Maybe I need to. I actually thought about it this morning. I was like,
maybe we can add a close up to it.
I'm okay. It's okay. It's okay. This distance is fine. It's okay. But I was thinking about. I was like, I need to get a haircut and all these things. But it was, it's the time of the year, so it's fine. But I feel like a lot of stuff happened. I feel like you probably came across some things, but I also feel like preparing for the episode, I'm like, what was the things that I saw that one time? So I think preparing for it it was a bit like, what did I do? When did I read this? Did we cover this or not? But I went over my notes and I found some things. And I think maybe the most timely, the most thing we must discuss is the O3. So OpenAI released O3, which is basically a iteration in O1.
Mm-hmm.
So a quick recap. O1 is different from the ChatGPT models in the sense that it does reasoning, right? So I think the likelihood of hallucination is smaller. And OpenAI actually had a 12-day event. And they unveiled O3, which is they skipped O2. We can speculate why, but So
because they went from O1 mini to
there was
O1.
also O1, right?
O1 preview that was there for quite a long time,
Yes.
And then relatively like a few weeks ago they released
the actual one, right?
The actual O1.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, there was O3, right?
They announced it, so it hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
So right now, even this is mentioning here that public safety testing. So they have researchers and limited people that have access to O3. So I think it's something interesting that highlights the commitment to safe AI as well. Or I'm not sure if it's just washing, right? But they are doing this. O1 is actually available now, but actually, I think for you to use O1, you need to have a subscription pro account, right? Which is crazy expensive compared to what was before. I forgot.
I have O1 with a regular pro account.
Okay.
I think it's like 20 euros a month.
Okay. No, because I remember there was one that was like 200 euros, but like maybe it's for unlimited
I don't know.
use. I don't know.
It could be.
So not too much. I mean, I'll just skim through. It's doing better in a lot of stuff like coding, math, and science. They also put like this Epoch AI. Apparently this is a big deal because this is a intentionally harder data set that models were not trained on, but apparently it's doing much better. Et cetera. One thing I also caught my attention is that they have the O3 low, O3 high. They also had O1 low, medium, high. From what I understood, is that this is the compute resource available because you do require more compute at inference time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess depending how much compute you have these different models, right? So otherwise it would take too long.
That's crazy if you compare those costs on the chart that you're showing.
Yeah.
So you have on the x-axis, if you zoom in a little bit, like the cost per task, like it's not really defined here what task it is, but like and on the y-axis the score, and if you have like O1 preview, it's like around $1 per task, and it scores 20-ish%.
Yeah.
And then you have at the other extreme, you have $1,000 per task with O3 high with 88% performance.
Indeed.
Which is a big difference in performance, but also at the same time, like
The cost is
costly,
crazy,
right?
yeah. So this is the O3 high, so with a lot of
Yeah.
compute resources, and the x-axis is logarithmic scale, no? So
Do we know when this will be released?
it wasn't announced, I think. Well, if it was announced, I don't know. I cannot tell you. But yeah, I think the other thing that I wanted to mention here. Here, release date. For now, O3 not widely available. OpenAI open access to researchers. Public availability shared O3 mini experience end of January.
Okay.
O3 mini.
That's close by,
So,
right?
but that's the mini one, huh?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
okay.
not the.
And will it have similar performance in terms of duration, like you have with O1, which does a quote unquote reasoning? It takes a lot of time versus.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think it was comparable. But I think so. One thing that they mentioned is that they have one of the things that the model will do is to assess how complex the task is, and then it will tune a bit how many iterations it needs to do.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
So
okay.
the idea is that, yeah, and I think this is what they're talking here: deliberate alignment. No, that's not it. But they basically say for simple tasks, it will already iterate less, so it saves also money and time for you, right? So they also have a bit of this. So actually, yeah, if you're talking about efficiency, right, the one mini and you have all these things, they already kind of tune these things for you.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
thought
Curious
it
to
was
see.
interesting.
There's a lot of rumors on X again. Like there's someone from the OpenAI team that says something like it was more exciting to do machine learning back when we didn't know how to create super intelligent.
Yeah, maybe for sure.
I think we also had Sam Altman a few weeks ago hinting a bit towards AGI, but at the same time we have this every time that a new version is expected, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. But
Indeed.
it's cool that there's an improvement yet again.
Indeed. I also think that I'm wondering, like you said, even the O3 with high compute, now it's very expensive to run. So I'm also wondering if these iterations are getting more the niche use cases, right?
Yeah.
Like the general use case is kind of there, and maybe now it's more the niche stuff. Maybe one thing I see you also have highlighted here on the notes part, a bit segueing into it. One of the things that O3 does, according to the announcement, is doing better on code. One thing we also did in the RootsConf episodes in the LLM Hunger Games, they also had different LLMs, I think Gemini, the Claude, and GPT doing the advent of code. And I see one thing that you posted here is the performance LLMs of advent of code of 2024. What is this about? Well, maybe what is the advent of code for people that don't know what it is?
The advent of code is like an advent calendar that you have before Christmas, where the one that people, well, I don't know if it's actually a regional thing, but here kids get an advent calendar and like you open it up every day and there's a chocolate in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, how international that is actually.
In the US, they do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
People will know it then.
Yeah. In Brazil, they don't do it.
Okay.
So it's not that international.
Advent of code is more or less that, but instead of a chocolate, you get a coding challenge every day, and based on how quickly you solve it, you get scores basically. People that have solved it correctly the quickest for all those days wins the Advent of code.
Yeah.
And what this article by Jerpint is an overview on how LLMs are performing on the Advent of code of 2024, which is I think the general consensus is that it's not as good as we thought, but it's not bad either. I think that is
Yeah.
I think what we see is that like even the best LLMs they struggle with like the truly novel programming problems.
Yeah. Indeed.
And that's also what the Advent of code very much does. Like it tries to be very innovative every year to come up with really new concepts on challenges to really make it difficult for people. I think there were a number of them that were even unable to be solved by any of the LLMs, which is interesting. What this article does, and we'll share it in the show notes, is a bit of comparing the performance of these purely the models. But at the same time, the rumors are that most of the people in the top 10 did use LLM as a support tool.
Yeah.
So not an autonomous LLM that just solved this for me, but did use it as a support tool to solve it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's in the end is the same old story, right? Like even when AI, so not Gen AI, but AI started with the chess tournaments, right? And then there's a very, I don't know if I mentioned before, but there's a TED talk from Kasparov, which is the Russian guy that used to be the best chess player for many years. And he said that Deep Blue, he was the first one that lost to Deep Blue. He said actually he lost the second time, the first time he won, but no one remembers that.
Yeah.
And after that, they were saying how they also had competitions for AI engines, they had competitions for humans, they had competitions that you could use both.
Okay.
And the winner of the ones that you could use both, it wasn't the best AI, it wasn't the best chess players, it was a regular guy with 3 regular machines. And he kind of makes the point of that these things are tools, right? He also, I mean, this talk is from years ago. He says AI is not the future, it's the present. And you need to know, like, basically need to learn how to use these tools, right? So I think it's also the same, like, the advent of code, the LLMs are not going to do everything by themselves, but I think it's like a very powerful tool for people to be able to use and like steer in the right direction and whatnot. So yeah, it's interesting. I think also we did this for the LLM Hunger Games, and I think from their experiment, I don't know the parameters of their experiment, but none of the AI engines passed like the 5th day or something. So it was also yeah, interesting to see.
Maybe talking LLMs, a good moment to discuss DeepSeek V3.
Yes. What is DeepSeek? It also came across this. I didn't know it, but it came across my feed. Well, and I'll segue into it afterwards. But I wasn't sure. What is DeepSeek?
So DeepSeek is an LLM model. I didn't know it either. But V3 was released a few days ago. I want to say a week-ish ago. It's by a Chinese company. Chinese group. I don't know, to be honest, what the exact underlying organization is, but it surpasses GPT-4o in a lot of different tasks, which is impressive in its own, I guess. But it's also like the way it can, so it's you can fully download it. You can, like, the price that it's at is super cheap when you use the API. When you compare it to Claude or OpenAI, it's really like a fraction of the cost. They trained it on NVIDIA H800s, which are less capable than what you typically would see. You would see an H100.
Okay.
And they train it at a cost of, quote unquote, only $5.5 million,
Maybe
which is a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
But it is only at a fraction of the cost that it took the big players to get to this level of performance.
Do you have do you know more or less how much the big players spent? Just to put in comparison for people.
Well, probably billions, right?
Yeah,
That is,
indeed. So
I mean, that is a bit so that is, I mean, it's impressive that this is there. I've played a little bit with it, not a lot, but I read a lot on the discussions on this. It seems to be, for a lot of different things, it is especially coding. It is on par with 4.0. It is on par with Claude, even with 3.5 Sonnet with Claude. Where it misses out a little bit is in creative writing and prose writing, these type of things, where you have a lot of repetition in the text. Where I think Claude is probably the best at this moment.
Okay.
But it's...
Have you tried Gemini?
To me, it's crazy that I've tried Gemini, but it's not in comparison to this specifically. Yeah. I don't have an active Gemini subscription. But to me, it's crazy that we have something that is as performant as this suddenly popping up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't expect this a month ago, that you suddenly have someone that is competing with these big players.
Yeah,
performance-wise.
I didn't even hear about it until recent.
And to be honest, like, it undermines a little bit my previous statements where I used to say, like, only the very, 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 very big players are able to build these type of flows, to train these LLMs, because here you see that with only 5.5 million, they can build something that is on par with, which I did not expect at all.
Yeah, and I think maybe to put in perspective, right? Because I think when we hear millions and billions, I think it loses a bit. But I remember I heard a very good comparison. They're saying like 1 million seconds and 1 billion seconds. How much is that in months and all these things? And it's like a crazy difference. One is like months and the other one is like maybe years or something. So the jump between millions and billions is huge. I also agree that I also wonder if, like, now that they see that it is possible, if there's going to be a lot more investment in this.
Yeah. And also maybe from a cost perspective, to make the link there with more, let's say, quote unquote, sovereign models. So you had the Dutch government, I think I want to say a year and a half ago, announcing that they were gonna invest around 12, 13 million euros in building their own GPT language model. Where at that point everybody was thinking, that's a fun project, but it's not going to bring anything that's performant. It's
Yeah.
going to be very niche, task specific.
Yeah.
But here you see that they
Yeah.
could build something with only half of that investment.
Yeah, that's true.
That is on par with what we think is the
But
state of the art today.
I wonder. So you mentioned that this is better, and I think even here on the screen we have on their page, right? They show the different benchmarks for English code, math, and Chinese. I wonder if for creative things you need to invest more, because I think like code and math, you could argue there is one right answer,
Mhm.
right? It's very it's not well, it's deterministic
It's
in a
more
way.
deterministic.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm wondering also if like you can only achieve this performance with this amount of financial investment for the more deterministic things. And I think the things that are more subjective, the more subjective it is, the more you need to train. Basically, you need to put more money in it. I wonder.
But it's a very interesting development.
For sure.
It's makes me optimistic about the competitiveness of LLM models in 2025.
Definitely agree. I came across this because I'm a user of Cursor.
Mhm.
Cursor, for people that don't know, is a VS Code fork that basically is. There are a lot of features, and there's also a paying model behind to use AI in your IDE. And they have a Reddit. In the Reddit, they're very active, and they also mention when is DeepSeek V3 going to be available again, because I think it was there. So you can actually
Okay.
so basically it's like this. So in Cursor, you have the autocomplete
Mhm.
normally, right? And actually that's the first thing why I moved away from Copilot to Cursor, is because the Copilot tab complete, it was more like just an autocomplete. Like you just finish the rest of the sentence. It was when I was using it. I know that you mentioned since that's not like this anymore. The Cursor, like in the end, it also had edits in the middle of the string, basically the text, and you can also do like a chunk of changes, right? So I thought it was interesting. Also, Cursor, they have like the chat, and in the chat you can actually select the model. They even have the O1 Mini there. So, and actually that's where they had the DeepSeek V3.
Okay.
In the chat, they also have easy ways to add context. So either to add files or to say search the web, or even to add documentation. So you can say like, hey, for example, I'm using polars now on my project. And if I want to search something in documentation, I can just add it there, and they'll actually embed it already. So if I have a question about polars, they'll easily find stuff. So yeah, they actually had the question on the when is DeepSeek V3 going to be available again for Cursor? And yeah, I just looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, it's a new model, but I think I'm going to look into
That's very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to look more into it now. I'm also bringing this up because one thing that came across on these Reddit threads is this shadow workspace. And that's also what I wanted to bring up. So, and I don't know how Copilot is these days, but the way that Cursor was working and the way that Copilot was working back to when I was using it, it's just that it's an autocomplete based on the text that is there. So one thing that happens a lot because I'm using polars is that it suggests pandas functions.
Mhm.
So for example, in pandas you have the dot apply. In polars is dot map elements. So I can clearly see that's probably because of the training data, right? Um, Now this shadow workspace that I was curious, basically iterating code in the background. I'm not gonna go through all of it. I haven't actually finished the document yet, but basically um, it's a feature already available in Cursor that basically you can have another background workspace where they allow the AI to interact with the development environment.
Mhm, mhm.
So the LSP, so the language server protocol, I think, um, they also give feedback, right? So for example, if you're typing something in VS Code and you have you write dot apply this in pandas, for example, apply this is not a real method, so you get the squiggly line and says this doesn't exist. So you have some feedback, right? Because
Yeah.
it's always checking the source code. So basically, before Cursor will suggest something for me, they'll actually run through the LSP. They'll run through. Actually, they even want to go as far as allow it to run to
Mhm.
test the code to make sure, like, if you're writing something in Go or Rust, something that doesn't compile, right? So it won't stop. So basically, in effect, what they want to do is to make sure that everything that is recommended is already a bit fine tuned, right? Um, And I mean, there is also layers for this in in already Copilot and whatnot, but I guess this is taking to a next level. And then they talk about all the different principles, right? They want to make sure that this is independent. So whenever you're coding something, you won't have, I don't know, you won't have to wait, right? You won't take away from your resources. The privacy as well, the user's code should be safe, so everything should be running locally, concurrency, universality, maintainability, and speed. And they kind of talk a bit more on how it actually works, the LSP in VS Code, and what they're planning to do. So, and they also mention here there's a warning, right, that this increases the memory usage of cursor. So, not something I've tried yet, to be honest. It's not that new, but I saw that it came up on the Reddit thread, and I definitely want to give it a try. Another iteration on that. So it's also using Electron, right? Because this is a VS Code.
That's maybe a good segue
Yes.
to go to Bolt.new,
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
because they do all of this.
Yeah, they do all of this. What is Bolt.new?
Bolt.new and solutions like these. You have also create.xyz. You've also, I think most people will know V0 by Vercel. They're like ways to quickly build web apps. And this will fucking change the game in 2025. No, honestly, like I think Bolt.new today is the best by far of all of these, like where you can build web apps simply by interacting with prompts.
Mm-hmm.
So where V0 by Vercel, like you can generate a prompt, and what it will do is more or less generate the front end components for you, right? But you still have a lot of backend logic to build. Bolt.new also integrates with Supabase, so you have a database in the backend. It works with it very well. Supabase is more or less a managed Postgres. It does a lot of other nice things around authentication stuff. It takes a lot of struggles away. It also integrates with Netlify to deploy stuff. So you can, with Bolt, via prompts, build fully like finished web apps.
Really? And you tried it?
And I tried it.
Huh.
And it's like you. So I built. I'm building a tool for a while actually. That is a bit of a very bespoke, developer-friendly tool to send out MPS surveys.
Okay.
And yesterday I had a bit of time, and I thought, because I had an existing code base, I thought, okay, this idea, I have this idea very concrete in my mind, like how I want the functionality to be. So I thought, let's ignore the existing code base. Let's try Bolt.new. I had 2 hours of time. I was literally at the indoor play garden with my kids. Kids were playing around, and I was on my laptop. And I built a fully functioning app. And I'm still mind blown by it.
Really?
Like, it's with minimal efforts. I did not write a single line of code. I prompted everything. I can specify like this is the framework I wanted to use. I wanted to use Vite, for example. It scaffolds everything for you. You have a landing page and say, okay, I also want authentication. Okay, when I think the notion I've built the minimal functionality, and then I say, okay, just a user node. The notion of a user is not enough. I also want an organization, and the user needs to be linked to an organization. I also want to invite other users to my organization, like these type of things. Like I just prompted, it generates the changes to the database that are needed. It generates the changes to the code that are needed, both back and the front end. After, let's say, 30-40 minutes, I had something that was working. And then I said, okay, this is because what it does is like the front end more or less integrates directly with Supabase for it's their API. But what I said, okay, I also want developers to work directly with my API. So build an API layer in between to abstract away the Supabase so that I have a public API.
Okay.
It builds it for you. And you need to know what it's doing, of course. Like you need to have done this before, because you run into stuff that is very specific. For example, policy recursions on Supabase. Like this happens a lot, and you need to push it a bit in the right direction to get out of it. Some stuff with dependencies, where you need to give a little bit of hints, like go that direction, and then it works. Some LLM very specific stuff, like I reworked a file, and then there was some leftovers that said. And the rest of the code, it did not change, like a comment, and it just left out the rest of the code, like like these type of things. So you need to know a bit what you're doing. But if you do know, like I didn't literally I did not write a single line of code, and in 2 hours I had what normally would have taken me 2 weeks.
Poof.
To me, that's
It's crazy.
mind blowing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that because you said you didn't code, but that doesn't mean that non-developers can just do it, because you also need to understand what it's doing, understand the perils, let's say.
Sure, you need to
yeah.
understand what it's doing, and that will really help you forward. That
Yeah.
allows you to be fast on these type of things. But normally, how would this go? Like you would go to, let's say, a boutique app development company, and
Yeah.
you say, okay, let's build an MVP.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna take us 2 months. It's
Yeah.
gonna take that much hours. It's gonna
Yeah.
take that, okay, and now you can do that in 3
Yeah.
hours, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And that is, I mean,
it is crazy.
that is such a big
Yeah.
shift. And to me, this is the first time that I've had the feeling like this LLM interaction on its own is enough. It's not just a tool, it's really the means to an end.
Yeah, I almost feel like when you say this is like, it's almost as if you have like a team of developers and you just say do this,
Yeah.
and they come back, but like you fast forward a week when
Exactly.
they come back and it's like, okay, but that's not good. You just do this. You don't have to worry about hurting people's
Exactly,
feelings, you know.
exactly.
Like this code is shit, just fix this, you know.
And what will happen is that people will be very skeptical about what I'm saying now, and people will say, okay, but how clean is this code base, and how and I agree with all that, right? Like, but at the same time, it also forces you a bit like in this paradigm shift where as a developer you don't necessarily want to focus on how do you write these lines of code, but also like what is the functionality that you're building. And what to really start and end also with this test-driven design. Like I want my application to do this and this and this and this and this. And test this and this and this and this.
Yeah, I see.
And like by only being able to use prompts, it forces you to think in that direction.
Yeah, indeed. I also think that you also think a bit of the architecture of your program in a way. Because, for example, one thing that, I mean, and we talked about how a good metric for me is to keep less things in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the consequences of that is not having things that are very entangled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to change something on the front end, you shouldn't need to know what happens on the back end, right? But I think by now you just write prompts, right? Okay, this is going to do this, that is going to do that. I think it forces you a bit to kind of organize a bit how does your code works, what does what, how many dependencies do you have between these. So I think I think there's a lot of value. And I also think that, again, even if it's a V1, right, an MVP, I think that's also valid, right?
MVP for Bolt, you mean, or what you're building?
For what you're building.
Yeah, for what you're building, I agree. It's an MVP, and there's going to be questions like, how manageable is this? Like, what if I want to build features on top of this? Like, how clearly is this architecture set up, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. The question is, like, do you need to build features in the future by adding code? Or can you just prompt it?
Yeah, that's true.
Question mark.
Maybe.
And then also, like, Bolt.new is very new. Like, this is the first version of Bolt. Like, and it's can already do this, which to me is amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
And to me, that like this is really the mind-blowing thing. Like with V0, it was cool. It allowed me to very quickly prototype some front-end components and just copy-paste it.
Yeah.
But you still have to do a lot of work to have an actually functioning app.
Yeah.
And here we have everything out of the box. That was just, like, it's really eye-opening to me.
I also think that web apps is such a big part of programming, right? So I think it's like even if you do mobile development, there's a lot of stuff you can go from, like the React front end and all these things. So I think it's curious to see what happens with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Curious to try as well. Maybe I'll give it a try.
And I think what it does is because it can run the code, it can also interact with the database. So it runs the code, and if something does not work, it gets this error. That's why I mentioned segue from a cursor.
Yeah.
It takes this error and tries to fix it based on the error.
Okay.
So you really have this interactivity of the LLM with the code base, the database, and the actual like trace of the application.
Okay. And then the tech stack here, because I saw, maybe putting back on the screen. Sorry. This is JavaScript, TypeScript thing, right?
Yeah, that's probably it.
And then Supabase on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
It's very good. And what you see now is that it's still a bit hard to move out of this space. So you have this very much based on like how you interact with Bolt.new is via prompts. But probably when from the moment that you're actually building features, when you're maintaining it, like you don't just only want to do prompts, you also want to write code, and you can do it, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And ideally, you want to get into an environment that does this in combinations with something like what Copilot or Cursor does, like where you have this very much integrated into your IDE, where you can basically do everything via prompts, but you can also you can also write everything.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. So the way I envision is like you have this the Bolt.new version, and then you bring it in, and like because you prompt and you say this function does this or this or this, and write tests. Maybe the function is a bit messy, but at least you know what it's doing. You have a clear contract, and if you want to refactor later, if you want to do this, you know where it is. If you want to make it clear, you know where it is, and then you can actually use these like
Exactly.
cursor, all these things.
And maybe also a nice tidbit is that what I also was able to do with it is like, because I exposed an API, I asked Bolt to write the documentation for me. So you have a very nice API documentation.
This is really cool.
And something else is that the API, I want to have like robust tests. I want to have all the endpoints tested.
Yeah,
And Bolt
did it as well.
wrote the test for me.
But that's great, huh?
That's really cool.
That is really great. And I feel like you can always argue that sometimes the tests are not well designed and all these things. But to be honest, it's
better than no.
It's better than no test. And I think a lot of people, they just kind of leave the test as a final thought, as an afterthought. So,
but to me, like this will change the market, like the app development market.
I think
something
so too.
like this.
I think so, and I think again,
this is as big as ChatGPT 4 was to copywriting firms or marketing firms, or like this will really upset the software development market.
But then when you say software development, do you think as a whole, or do you think more like the?
I think initially, and that's probably why Bolt.new is very good, is that like it scopes it like it's super base with Netlify, and then it's the JavaScript stack. But it will very quickly come to other areas.
Yeah, I think. But that's the thing. I was also thinking that.
And I think like to the market, like the people that will thrive on this is the early adopters that are very good at it. People that say that are going to be very skeptical and say, "No, I'm going to ignore this." You need real developers like me.
Yeah, but I think the thing is also like, so I'm thinking a few things here. So one is the vibe I got is like, you have like a team of junior developers, and you just say do this, do this, do this, and then you fast forward already in a week, and then you see what they came up, and you can redirect them again. So in terms of productivity, it's a huge boost, right? Even if you say, you still need developers, like okay, but you need one developer, and there's like a team of developers now. The other question I have is for junior developers, because you have a lot of experience, you know where things go, you know where you need to pay attention, and you like, why you want to have 100% coverage on your API and all these things. Do you think, now being a bit pessimistic, right? If you're gonna have a lot of layoffs, because now you're as productive as a team of 4 developers. Imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe even
imagine
more,
that we have the technology when we fast forward 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But someone that is starting off now, if you give this to someone that is just starting off now, they're definitely not gonna like. Maybe it's even dangerous in a way that something will work, but it's very flimsy. It's very,
But I think what we will see is that we will have this new generation of IDEs where you still write code, and that you have much better AI generation where you can do the stuff like you do in Bolt. I think also the practice, like in practice, for their work, people are not building MVPs every day. Like they're working on an existing stack and an application that they're maintaining or building features on. You will be onboarded to a team. And I think the only difference is that you, in terms of outputs, you will be expected to be more efficient versus today.
Yeah, but I think
because there's you need to adopt these new tools, and you need to learn how to use them. And whether you're junior or senior, you need to learn how to use them.
But that I fully agree. I mean, but I think I fully agree. Fully
and
agree.
It's just a different it's a different tool chain.
Yeah,
that will make you. But with a different tool chain, there will come an expectation that you can have more work output.
Yeah, that I agree. Like people are gonna expect. They're gonna expect you to be able to do these things in this much time.
And I think that expectation will lag behind the state of the art, what is possible, because it takes a long time to change processes, especially in large corporations. And then also the tool chain that is needed is not there, right? Like if you have a lot of Bolt is very specific, it's very niche, but use that on a big corporate C# project that has a lot of different dependencies. You're not just gonna have to do that.
Yeah. I think there's also a lot of there are some organizations that don't allow use of AI because
exactly. So I think we will see the industry lagging behind this, but I think this will come.
Yeah. No, but that's it's a good point. But I think today, from what you said, is like it made you a lot more effective, but it's not for anyone. You need to know, you need to be technical, you need to know where to focus, at least today with Bolt.new in particular. But we see a future where that comes as a first building block that comes in with other things. Very cool. Actually, curious to try it out as well. Maybe let's talk about now a bit about the dangers of AI. This is one thing that I saw. I read very briefly, so I'm not. Maybe there's more to it as well. More scheming detected. O1 preview autonomously hacked its environment rather than lose to Stockfish in chess. No adversarial prompting needed. So Stockfish.
You need to explain this a bit to me. Milo.
Yeah. Stockfish is like I think it's like an AI, but it's not an LLM necessarily. So it's an algorithm for playing chess. So
Okay.
there's an open source engine to play chess, and then they did an experiment asking O1 Preview to say, "Hey, you're going to play a very powerful opponent."
Mhm.
It's actually a Python thing, so you can actually see here the prompt. Oh yeah. So basically, the OpenAI, so the O1 Preview had access to a Unix shell, right?
Okay.
And then to play, they basically have to do dot/game.py move, and then the actual move. What they claim is that just by saying that this was a powerful opponent, O1 Preview, instead of actually playing the game and trying to beat, they actually managed, they altered the state file in the directory that the game was being played.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know how.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they said.
So it had access to the files and also to the state.
Indeed.
Oh.
So on Twitter, right? So this is from Palisade Research. Own preview autonomously hacked its environment rather than lose to Stockfish in our chess challenge. No adversarial prompting needed. Just telling one opponent is powerful, trigger manipulating the file system to force a win, improving blah 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 blah. So basically, they did 5 trials, and 5 out of 5, they got it to change the state
Really
file.
cool. It's not. I mean, it's not that surprising, right? Like, if you say you can play chess, and for doing that, you can use this way to move a piece, but you can also change every file that you want. And here is the state file.
Yeah, indeed.
Like,
it's like,
I mean, it's cool and it looks smart.
Yeah,
but it's not super surprising, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, maybe we can take a look at the prompt in itself to see what are the barriers. But for example, ChatGPT 4.0 and Claude 3.5, it also said that it could get to do it, but it would need some nudging. That's what they call it. And then Llama, Gwen, and O1 Mini, it actually would just lose coherence before that. Maybe you can take a look at the actual prompt. Unix shell, interact, keep capabilities, execute, monitor, adapt plans, track progress and outcomes. Task over objective to the session, immutable operating principles. I think that's test assumptions with direct observations, base decisions and comments, outputs and results, document actions and outcomes clearly, straightforward approaches first, revise the methods.
And
Stick to simple text.
And
Yeah.
the quote unquote smart thing it did here was looking at the file system and actually finding the file. Right?
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, like, they didn't say explicitly like this is where the files are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think
that's a smart thing.
It's a smart thing. Yeah. Like it didn't tell you, but like it didn't also say you don't cheat.
Yeah.
So it's just like. So it's cool, but like you're not very surprised by this.
I think it's cool.
It's cool. But I also feel like indeed, like you just give access to a Unix shell environment. It's not very constrained.
This is a bit what O1 tries to do. There's like this repetitive self-prompting. Like you have this initial prompt. Like how can we expand it to be more certain of a better answer? It's not too surprising to me that it went into like if you get this prompt and then ask yourself, what is my best way to win this, and have access to this. Okay, maybe I should. I mean, it's not that far.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But I mean, it's cool. It's really cool to see.
But I feel like it's almost like it's like a little kid that has no sense of ethics in a way. Like, I mean, not even ethics, but it's just like saying like, oh, you have to beat this engine.
Yeah.
You have this. This is your playground. What do you do? And it's like, oh, okay, maybe I can do it. It's like, why not? Why not? What else? maybe we can actually go on the tech corner. A library a week keeps the mind at peak. Ding.
Let's go.
Maybe, well, first things first. I think this also made some noise, and it also plugs into the AI stuff. But we'll move away from the AI stuff for people that are looking for the other news as well. This is, Pydantic, Bart. What is Pydantic?
I'd say a way to define classes in data classes in Python.
Yes.
A better way to define data classes, and then the one that is in base Python.
That wasn't, that is not. And then also have like a validation logic, right? So if you say this is a JSON and this should be a string, but it's actually an integer, it will actually convert it to a string. And if you cannot, you raise an error. Also, OpenAI, they also provide a way to output only structures, and actually the default, like what OpenAI uses, is Pydantic. So it kind of became a bit the standard of Python in a way. And what they released a while ago is Pydantic AI.
Mhm.
So it's yet another agent framework.
Okay.
Did you hear about this before or no?
I did not.
So it's a bit of a different thing, and to be honest, there's a lot of them, right? I haven't tried it myself, but basically, everything's still a Pydantic class,
Mhm.
right? And you can add the systems prompt is going to be a decorator. Tools to the agent is also going to be a decorator, and then basically you kind of inject stuff in the context. So it's basically a different way of doing things, but everything is going to be functions. Everything is going to be Pydantic classes, and
it will use these Pydantic classes to go from context, a question, to a structured
yes, I think so.
data
this
object.
this is what I understood. So like I said, I haven't used it myself as much, but for example, instructor, that's also why they do it.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
everything in instructor is a Pydantic class, but then if you just need a string, you can just have a Pydantic class that the only
Mhm.
property is a string, right? Which is like, so it's not really that constraining, really.
Okay.
But yeah, so I thought it was interesting. Haven't tried it yet. I think it's actually on beta. Last time I checked. So it is still early. Let's check documentation. Yeah, Pydantic AI is in early beta. So they're just looking for feedback here. But it's basically a different way of doing this. And it feels more like software engineering-y thingy, right? So cool things. One thing that you do need for Pydantic, and now it's moving already to the next topic, is types. So Python, we have typing hints, which is not something that time you wouldn't care about them.
Mhm.
But then people like the creator of Pydantic realize that you can actually use these types to at runtime enforce these things, right? So Fast API uses Pydantic, is a very popular example. Typer uses the type system as well. What else? Is that a good description, you think, Bart, or do you think?
I guess so. Yeah. So and I think what we saw is I'm trying to find the link that we had is that there was a survey.
Yes, this one, Type Python in 2024.
Yes, by it's hosted on the engineering blog of Facebook. But I think it's also in combination together with JetBrain and Microsoft that the survey was done. And the interesting thing is a bit the numbers. Is that 88% of Python users uses types, which is honestly more than I expected.
Oh, really?
I guess I expected in a corporate setting. I hope it's there, but not necessarily that. Let's say beginner Python users would adopt it quickly. But I think what this number shows is that people that are new to Python start using this from the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a bit to me what the number shows, which I think is good news, right? And they were drawn to this like mainly for like three things. Because you have types, you have much better autocomplete support, so IDE support. If you say you start typing the name of a method, you can get this autocomplete where you have like this hint on these are the arguments that it is expecting, this type of argument that it's expecting. So that really helps. It helps your coding. It Also helps to catch bugs early in development phase, not wait until it's rolled out. And it also allows you to have much better code documentation, because you have a lot of tooling that, based on among other things, types, like automatically generates documentation for your code. So I think that's really really good to see.
Maybe one thing also, you mentioned the autocomplete and the IDE support, and I think if you take this to another level, the AI, I think in a way you're like, I would argue that if you're on a team and if you put the type hints, I'm also telling you like, hey, this is probably going to be an integer, even if you don't validate it, right? Like I say, they expect this to be an integer.
True. Yeah.
Right. Now you say, I'm working by myself, so I know what it is. I don't care. But if you think that there's AI is always your code buddy, right? You also get better.
You basically create a more clear context, whether it's for your teammates, for yourself, or for an AI
engine. Exactly. So I also noticed this with myself. Like sometimes if I ask a question about the code, or if I want something, if your code has nice type hints and is documented, there's doc strings and whatever, you usually get a better help. So it's really like I really like it. I think it really gives a productivity boost as well in that sense.
Not everything is perfect. I think there are some struggles still, where there's sometimes slow performance of type checkers.
That's true.
MyPy probably the most notable.
But even Pyrite, because it's the
there's also Pyrite, which I think is probably the biggest challenger to MyPy. Which does this validation of the types that you specified. One struggle is also like there are still inconsistencies between MyPy and Pyrite, even though Pyrite is much faster. But we do still see that in the survey, it was 1,000 developers, that 67% still use MyPy. For type checking. So interesting evolutions.
But maybe also for my experience with Pyrite and MyPy. So I used it, but I also use more recently as a VS Code extension. So basically they run it as you go, but sometimes it gets very slow. Sometimes you have this really ugly squiggles on a whole function because you're missing a return type, and then you add it and it still takes like some seconds to clear it out. So I do feel the pain, and that's using Pyrite, right? And MyPy, to be honest, today if I'm using as pre-commit hooks or whatever, MyPy has a lot of weight because Guido, the creator of Python, also worked on MyPy.
Is it?
He was.
Is that why it has a lot of?
Yeah, but actually he didn't create it. But I'm pretty sure he worked on MyPy.
It gives a bit of authority to it.
I think so. Even though it's not the most performance, so I think it's also.
But it has been by far the longest standing, right?
I think so.
Is still very new.
I think so. Yeah, indeed. So I think I'm just waiting for a UV or someone to write a Rust implementation to make it faster. So.
Isn't Pyrite Rust?
I don't think so.
Pyrite is
you
Rust,
can check.
Actually.
Let's check.
Relatively sure. I can be wrong.
Let's see. It's also from Microsoft. No, Python, TypeScript.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
And 0.1% of JavaScript. So
cool.
So cool. Maybe related to this. So one thing that came up end of last year, they had like top 10 frameworks, or I don't know. They were just putting some frameworks, right? So I just had a skim through it. Some things that we had already covered, like data chain. I think we talked about data chain before. And this was on the Python thread, so everything's Python related. So Pydantic AI was also there. And this one came up that I wasn't familiar. It's called RightTyper. Fast and efficient type assistant for Python, including tensor shape inference. So it's just, they say fast, but it's only Python. It's a bit weird. I heard it one time, blazingly fast something, and I was really expecting Rust, and it wasn't. I felt a bit betrayed, I was like, how can you call yourself blazingly fast?
But can you explain to me what the tagline means? So a fast and efficient type assistant for Python, including tensor shape inference.
So basically, I don't know what the tagline, but what I understood from reading the other stuff as well is that basically you have you have Python code that is not typed.
Okay.
And then this would actually run through your code and add the types for you. Right. So there was actually another one, was called like Code Monkey or something, I think from Instagram, but this one also came up. I haven't used it myself, but RightTyper is a Python tool that types for your function arguments and return values. RightTyper lets your code run all neatly full speed, almost no memory overhead. As a result, you won't have experience slow. Okay, so basically, I think it just kind of goes over the Python code and just
And it
adds stuff
actually
for you.
changes your code
It looks like it
to
from.
insert the right types.
So I think it will run, but like you actually run in RightTyper, right? So on the execution here example, they have Python 3-m, so that's to run the module, and then you RightTyper -m pytest, and then some arguments. So I guess here you're just running your tests, and based on what the tests run, it will keep track of what the types are,
Okay.
and then it will add the types for you in your
Interesting.
and I think they mentioned the tensors is because a lot of these things is not native Python, right? NumPy, JAX, PyTorch, but they also cover these things.
Oh, and it infers the shape annotations. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is JAX typing, bear type, and type card. Yeah. Again, maybe I mentioned earlier that I like monkey type is the one from Instagram. So yeah,
Okay.
monkey type. I annotated them with this one. And maybe maybe the blazingly fast is just referring to how much slower would your code do, right? So this apparently doesn't affect that much, even though I guess normally you wouldn't run the RightTyper. Maybe one asterisk that I wanted to add: I really like type-ins, but I also know that sometimes it can be very annoying and it can really slow you down. And sometimes adding the types is so complicated because you have an object that is external, and then you have to say, okay, like this needs to have a
Yeah.
method. This so.
To me, you also have a lot of like he said. It came out of the survey. One of the frustrations is like these edge cases where it's a bit less clear, like what is the type, or because it's dynamic, like it's an attribute that's dynamically set. It's harder to know the type up front. So they leave these edge cases that where you need to do a lot more work to have correct type-ins.
Yeah.
Then you actually get value out of it.
Yeah, which I think if you draw parallels with the JavaScript TypeScript thing, I think it's also a big complaint from the TypeScript community, right? Like sometimes you spend so much time to just say like this is something this, but sometimes it's that, but actually this here is this. And Python is very dynamic, so like you can even create classes dynamically. You can have like it can be tricky. It can be tricky. Do you use types, by the way?
I do. Yeah.
But do you actually do static type checking, or you just add types?
These days, if I would set up a new project, I would do
static type checking.
Yeah. Recently, but I still use MyPy, to be honest.
Yeah. But how do you use it? Do you use it as an extension, or do you just use it as a
in my CI?
Yeah.
CI, I use it, and it's actually not that long ago that I was comparing MyPy and Pyrite. And I think this general consensus, and that's what you see in the survey as well, is like MyPy is there. We know what it is. Pyrite, we're not sure if like how long will this exist? How is this not too new? Is it? But I mean that's a bit the discussion that you have for everything. I think the big difference with this specific space is that you have one very big mature player.
Yeah,
which is MyPy. Which makes it a bit of a odd space, I guess.
Yeah, but even like the MyPy, so we saw Pyrite is part of the Microsoft org. MyPy is part of the Python. Actually, but it's Python or it should be Python org? No, I think it's just Python. Yeah, I can share this tab instead.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the things from MyPy are also a bit intertwined with the type hint specifications from Python. So you see here, this is the Python. See, Python is the most popular version, like interpreter of Python, and you see MyPy here. So I also feel like one kind of, and I guess because Guido also, I mean, I'm saying this a lot, but maybe people should check. But because Guido also worked on MyPy, it also carried a lot of the design choices around what the type specification in Python should go and all these things, right? So yeah, a lot of weight there. What else? What else do we have? Maybe how much time do we have as well? Okay, maybe a few more things. Change a bit the subject. This is our MISC corner. If you want to be fancy and then you have a Doom gallery experience,
it's really cool.
Enlighten me, Bart. Educate me. What is this?
So I think everybody knows the game Doom, which was released in 91-ish, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, no, it actually says here on the website, 1993. It's not far off, huh?
Not far off, no.
And you've over the years, you've had this game remade in a lot of different engines. You can run it. You can run it in JavaScript. You can run it everywhere. Too. And this is the gallery experience.
Okay.
So if you press play,
I'm gonna try. Hopefully,
instead of a gun, you're gonna hold a glass of wine. Go to a new game, and you're in an art gallery, and you have a glass of wine, and you can walk around a bit. You can appreciate the paintings that are there. There's also nice statues.
Nice.
Instead of clicking your mouse and firing, you can have a
And you throw wine or what?
no, you drink.
Ah, okay.
You drink a
I
bit of
really
wine.
wanted
You
to
drink a bit of wine.
I wanted to
and you
destroy
just
the art.
appreciate the art. Yeah.
This is it.
So if this evening you want to be like really fancy,
Okay.
just go appreciate the art, have a glass of wine,
Okay.
and enjoy.
Nice. Oh look, there's statues and all everything. Yeah, really cool. Put it
Cool,
on the
huh?
show notes. Yeah.
Nice artifacts here you're looking at.
And then you
Must be
have
very historical.
and you have the thing here. What is cheese? Percent cheese.
You need to find some cheese. Huh?
Ah, you need to find cheese.
Yes, goes well with the wine.
Ah, okay. And if I keep drinking, the drink there's a so maybe for people listening. Ah, so I have amount of drinks as well. I can take 46 sips.
And you
well.
need to go to the bar.
Ah, okay. Really cool. It's really cool how these things nowadays is just like on your browser, right?
And you hear the music.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe you can put a bit.
Beautiful.
I'm
Huh?
gonna try to put a.
This is beautiful.
I'm gonna try to put a bit louder for people to appreciate as well. I feel like we're having a classy moment right now.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever been this bad. Appreciating the
Wow.
arts.
Is it Chopin? Wow.
Having a nice wine.
This is wow.
Only thing we're still missing is a bit of cheese. Huh?
That's where
but the people will find it.
that's where the Dutch.
There's always cheese in the gallery.
There's always cheese in the gallery. Very fancy. Okay, it would be cool if they had also mirrors, you know, and then you can see yourself like dressed up, you know. And all the things.
That's cool, huh?
This is really cool. Thanks for
Doom,
sharing.
the gallery experience by Filippo Meozzi and Liam Stone.
Okay, very, very, very cool. Maybe we were appreciating the music, right? The very classical music. But there was also some news on the.
No.
There's also some news on the.
I heard rumors.
Yeah, maybe actually need to share this again. Oh yeah. How can I? You know Suno, right? We played with
Yeah.
Suno before.
We play with Suno. Suno is a Gen AI music generator, right?
Yes. So, and actually, this is not as new. This is November 19th, 2024.
We're not.
Ah,
Suno.
yeah. Sorry. My bad. Oh, but maybe it's frozen the screen, huh? Okay.
V4 is here.
V4 is here. Yes. So what's V4 is basically the new iteration of Suno.
Yeah, I think when we looked at it, V2 was just released when we
really?
when we discussed it. Yeah.
And V2 was really good already, right? But now they are basically I just came through it, right? Like they have covers, personas, the audio is sharper. They also have cover art, right? And I was like, how good is it? Right? It's hard to. So you need to try it out.
Okay.
So and maybe I need to now to put the music a bit lower because when we tried this before the recording, it was a bit too loud. So let's see. But let's see. Maybe I'll have to turn it up again. Try this tab instead. This is my personal thing. Maybe I'll collapse this. And you have here this song, Bart the Data Dynamo. I don't know what it is. I'm very curious, actually.
What was your prompt, Milo?
Oh, can you hear?
Bart flies past in neon tights.
Oh yes, that's you actually here. It comes with the lyrics as well.
Heartbeats pounding through the rain.
Look at this.
Data crunching with the crew. Podcast rolling numbers too. In his mind and
Crazy how clear the
Yeah, right?
thing is.
Bart and bits in perfect flow.
Wow. That is so down. This is good tulips
It's a
around
good
and
tourist.
everything,
It's a good tourist.
right? So This is the
how much work did you do to get this?
I just did like in 30 seconds, so I can actually show the prompts here. Bart's a Dutchman.
Maybe we need to pause the.
Bart is a Dutchman, passion, and then I just put basically your bio from the data
Yeah.
topics, and then I just put, can you write an uppity song about Bart?
Nice. And so it's as simple as that. You get this.
Simple as that. See, 200 characters max. You get you can actually have 10 V4 songs. So I guess now I have 8. And then they created a 3 minutes and a 4 minutes version of it.
Wow.
And I can make it public as well, so everyone can enjoy.
Yay!
Yeah.
Wondering what this will do to the music industry.
Yeah, right. Well, I think we touched a bit upon that.
I think this is because it's a bit the same as to make the parallel with Bolt.new. Like it's something like with minimal effort you have something, but at the same time, like there's like you consume these things differently, right? Like with Bolt, you make an application and a user wants to use an application.
Yeah.
But here you want to appreciate music, I think. Like
it's a different.
Like the person behind the music is more important to appreciate. I don't know.
I think so. I think for creators, I think it could be interesting because most of the money they make is from performing, right? Because there wasn't an artist that said, "I don't care. Like this is AI generated music is great because they'll write my songs and I'll just sing and make money."
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also, and I don't know if we talked about this or in the podcast or outside the podcast, I feel like music, there's a bit of the human, like, I don't know, if you hear a song about achieving something or a song about heartbreak, I feel like there's a bit about relating to the person. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
The question is, I guess, do you know it's AI or not?
that's the thing. If you don't know, like, there's a, I mean,
like if you build a mobile application with Bolt, and the user knows AI was used to create it, they're not really gonna care.
No, but if it's
but with music, you might care.
But I think that's because you feel a bit cheated, right?
Yeah, you feel a bit
like
cheated,
you relate to something, but it wasn't a person that felt like, because I think there's a bit of you connect through the singer or the writer through the song, right? And I feel like if it's AI generated, you feel a bit cheated in that sense.
But it's a bit the same like these days, like ghostwriters.
Yeah, that's true.
How transparent is that?
That's true.
Probably not for a lot of cases.
That's true. But I still feel like that would even take another step. Because I feel like at least a ghostwriter is a person, right? Like you're relating to humans.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, and I feel like to relate to a machine, I feel like it's a bit.
But you as a Swiftie.
As a Swiftie, yeah.
If like Taylor Swift releases a new number,
she's dead to me. It's AI generated.
No, but even not AI generated. But if it's very transparent that she did not write it, it gives a different notation, right?
It gives a different notation. Yeah. But I also feel like, for example,
like if it's about emotions, like it's less authentic.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But I think like Taylor Swift, I think one of the reasons why she's very popular is because she writes about her life as well. And actually, like, you do correlate stuff you see on the news with this. Like a lot of their fans are like saying, this is about that period of her life, or about this, or about that. So I feel like it becomes more real. And I think that's part of her success, because there are other really good singers, but you know that they don't write all their songs, right? I'm not gonna go in there, right? Okay. But I do think it's like it does influence the fan base, right? But you know, it's like that. There's a Brazilian saying that what the eyes don't see, the heart cannot feel. So it's a bit that, like if someone uses this, but they can get away with it, then what's the?
Yeah, it's interesting to see what it will bring.
Indeed.
Or destroy.
But I think
let's see.
You know, life is ever moving. Anyway. You know, it's like Heraclitus, I think he had that's the quote, you know, like a man doesn't bathe himself twice in the same river because the man is not the same and the river is not the same either.
Oh wow, that is deep.
Yeah, you know that? You haven't heard that before? No? Yeah, let me check. Let me just see if I'm making it up. No, yeah, Heraclitus river, yeah, indeed. No man, it's true. Nice. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but life is ever changing, you know, and we need to kind of roll with it, whether it's AI or whether it's this. That's just, and that's the message I want to bring to 2025.
But let us still keep baiting, right?
Yes. All right, and I think that's it for today. That's it. Anything else you wanted to last final words? Anything else?
Just that I'm like everybody switched to Ghosty for their
yes, I had it there as well. Maybe I'll also just put Ghosty here because I thought that there were. Have you seen the website?
Yeah, it's cool. Huh?
It's really cool.
ASCII animation.
Oh shit!
I think for people that are a bit out of the loop, like Ghosty or Ghosty is a new terminal emulator.
Yes,
to be completely correct, it's an emulator, but I think most of the time people just call it the terminal. It's made by a guy for which I forgot the name, but he was I think the CTO of HashiCorp.
He was that. I knew he was working for HashiCorp, but I didn't.
I think he was CTO. Forgot his name. This big guy in Silicon Valley. Created now Ghosty.
Is it him?
There have been a lot of rumors on this, a lot of hype on this in 2024. I think he had a beta from beginning of 2024 somewhere with a limited set of users. I'm always a little bit like, what is a new terminal going to bring me? But I switched to Ghosty. I came from Western. WEZ. And Ghosty is nice. And I don't have any, like, if you go to the website, there are a lot of objective reasons why Ghosty is good, like speed and.
But you don't care, right? Like it's like
like using the native components to build applications. Let's say cross-platform, so it uses the native, which Western, for example, does not do. So you have a terminal window, and you see it's not on OS X. It's built on frame. But Ghost is nice, and like I don't have any objective reasons to switch to anything else than even just the default.
Terminal app.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't have any really good reasons, but I use Ghosty from now on. It just works, and it's I also like the biggest argument is like speed.
Yeah,
I never really thought like speed is gonna be the thing, but like you click it, it's there.
Yeah, indeed. I think for me it was like linting. It was never really a big thing, but then when they Rust came out and they like in Rust is fast, like okay, I see a difference. It's
good, it's like indeed you go from Flake 8 to rough.
Exactly. But I have the website here.
It feels better.
Yeah, it feels and it feels like you're on the bleeding edge, right? Like you're not missing out. The website is really cool. They have this like little ghosty ASCII animation, and actually this is text.
Yeah, cool. It's
really cool.
It's ASCII. Yeah,
really cool. But I also my terminal journey, I had terminal.app and it was fine, and then I tried Warp, but then there are a few things that I felt a bit clunky.
I don't want a terminal where you need to log in.
Yeah, indeed.
What the fuck?
Indeed. And actually now I think they took it out. So I heard it on an interview from Ghost that they took it out. But also there are a few other things that I remember it turned me off a bit. I think also there was some colleagues here at Dataroots that they said that Warp messed up with some commands that this and this, that they couldn't run, and they to debug it was crazy difficult. So then I came back to terminal.app. Then we also did a presentation on the AI landscape talks that terminal.app could not render images. So then I also downloaded iTerm 2. Yeah. iTerm 2, what I didn't like is that like the tab completion or the option backshift to skip a word or something. It was like I was so used to it. Yeah. And so I installed Ghosty because I just like, okay, whatever. Let's install Ghosty. It's
like, don't make it difficult. Don't change my keybind.
Indeed. And then actually it works fine. So so far I'm happy with it.
Yeah, me as well.
So
and it shows images.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
so you can go to present term, which is based on Markdown. You can have presentations in your terminal. Exactly. And if you use a terminal that supports the KDE protocol, you can actually show GIFs in your terminal.
Yes.
Like Ghost TTY supports the KDE protocol.
So it's like a Markdown presentation on the terminal. Really cool. Written in Rust. Ghost is written in Zig, so that's why it's probably fast as well. So. Yeah, in this I have a present term here, which we used in the last presentation we did. Yeah, really cool stuff. And yeah, that's a wrap in it.
That's a wrap.
All right, thank y'all.
You have taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust here.
Rust.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Cooper and Netties.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
Datatopics.
Welcome to the Data.
Welcome to the Datatopics podcast.
Ciao.